Prime Minister Mark Carney was a special guest at a summit of European leaders over the weekend, the first non-European leader to receive an invitation of this kind.
To promote peace and to ensure shared prosperity. On all these levels, Canada is more than a like-minded, it is a close partner.
In his remarks, Prime Minister Carney said Canada is moving closer to its European partners. And in a nod to his Davos speech, where he warned of a rupture of the rules-based order, Carney said that order will be rebuilt out of Europe. Back in Ottawa today, the Prime Minister was asked what exactly he means by that.
That system, as I've observed in the past, and I'm not alone in making these observations, has been greatly weakened and needs to be rebuilt, and rebuilt perhaps in a different way, but rebuilt based on the same principles. And Canada, the European Union, the United Kingdom, Australia, other countries share very firm convictions with those principles.
Geneviève Tuts is Ambassador of the European Union to Canada. Ambassador, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for coming.
Good to see you. Thank you for having me.
Mark Carney's comments at the gathering of European leaders in Armenia sort of jumped out to me, saying that the international order could be rebuilt out of Europe. How do you interpret those remarks by the Prime Minister?
Well, I have to say first that maybe it's good to recall that this European political community is a meeting of leaders from Europe, from the continent. So this is quite remarkable, and I have to say that it is also significantly politically important to invite leaders from a country out of Europe. So Mark Carney was invited, he was a guest. Around 47 other leaders took part of this meeting, and so I'm not surprised that what he said about, because the relationship between Europe and Canada is strong and stronger than ever. Not just European Union, but Europe. This is wider than European Union, as you know.
Right.
So I'm not surprised. I think there is a lot to say after his speeches in Davos and the way he has given us a very articulated vision for the new world order. And so this is maybe one of the first illustration of this in Armenia.
Well, what do you think that would look like, though? That if, because, you know, to build on the themes outlined in the Prime Minister's speech about hegemons, the dominant powers, like the United States, less reliable right now than it has been historically. So if the international order is to be rebuilt out of Europe, as Mark Carney suggested, what does that look like to you from a European lens?
Well, first of all, this is what the Prime Minister said out of Europe. We have also the impression that to reconstruct or to rebuild could be wider than that, but we are very flattered and honored that the EU has been mentioned, of course. But I think that we are in Europe, as it is the case in Canada, quite keen to develop partnership with reliable and predictable partners. So this is the case between the EU and Canada, and we are, I would say, having the same approach in diversification. What we do in Europe is concluding new free trade agreements. We did it with India, with Australia. We are now currently working with the Philippines. We had the Mercosur, Mexico. So there is this new trend to build partnership with solid and, as I said, reliable partners.
Well, CETA is still not ratified by everybody. I know it's provisionally in effect, but there's still some issues with getting it through some various national parliaments and legislatures and other things. But how do you see that working then with Canada in this new age? Because there is a trade agreement, despite its sort of incomplete nature. You know, Mark Carney, I think, was the first non-European leader to be invited to this summit, this gathering in Armenia. I mean, where does it go next with Canada? Because it's 50 years since you've had a presence here diplomatically. I don't know if many of the years have been like this one. So what's next?
Well, thank you for mentioning our 50th anniversary. Yes, we've been here since 1976, and since that, every day we are building a stronger relationship. So you mentioned CETA. CETA works. CETA is one of the best free trade agreements we have signed with a third country. I can tell you that the increase of trade in goods and services has increased by 71% since its provisional application. Of course, you mentioned that some EU member states have not ratified yet, but we are working on that. They are working on that, and we hope to see new developments soon. So CETA is the basis of our trade and investment cooperation. But we have other than that. We have the Strategic Partnership Agreement, and in June last year in Brussels, we have also signed a new strategic partnership for the future, meaning that we want both of us, the EU and Canada, to elevate the relationship, to try to find another way, another form maybe of agreement to bring this relationship to a next level.
Right, well, but look, so many things have changed in the 50 years since you set up shop in Ottawa, and even since CETA was negotiated and provisionally put in place. And we spoke with Kaya Kallas on the show not that long ago, right after she warned that Europe needs to adapt to a rougher world. And, you know, Mark Carney describes what's happening as a rupture. So how do you see the EU having to change sort of in this world that I believe it was Ms. Kallas who said that the rule books are just being thrown overboard?
Yes, but we are still attached to multilateralism, and with Canada we share the same values, so we want to respect the rule of law, democracy, freedom of speech, human dignity, human rights. This is what unites us, the EU and Canada. And this is how we see the world now. We still believe in multilateralism. We still believe that this is by working together that we will find a global solution to global challenges. So that's the way we see the future. So I think your Prime Minister gave his vision of the world. We are very close to that vision, and we are now working and building on that to deepen even more than before the relationship we have.
Well, look, for decades, the United States was part of the multilateralism effort, part of the partnership effort, and it is less so now. I mean, the trade war issues that Canada is having with the United States, the European deal was recently kind of torn up with the imposition of the tariffs after the German chancellor said Iran had humiliated the United States, and they've drawn down soldiers from their German presence, which has been an important part of the security umbrella. I mean, how do you expect the European Union to respond to what is happening with the United States right now and the way they're treating all of its historic allies from the last century?
So as you mentioned, we have negotiated an agreement with the US in July last year. We have some commitments, both sides, and we are currently implementing those commitments. So we are in touch with the administration. We are on a daily basis communicating with them on the way we are implementing our commitments. And we consider, as the President said rightly, that a deal is a deal. Now, if there were to be other measures not in conformity with the deal that we agreed, all options will remain open because we need to protect EU interests as well.
But the tariffs on the cars and trucks, I mean, these were just sort of imposed. I mean, is a deal right now with the United States? Because this is the national debate that's being had here is, you know, hurry up and get one. Let's try to get a deal to resolve some of the lingering issues. Can you count on any deal lasting based on our experience of the past little while?
But the way you ask the question implicitly contains your reply. But what I tell you
well, it's just the experience of steel workers, auto workers, aluminum, forestry, everybody in this country.
But we still believe that we have agreed, we have some commitments, and we are respecting our commitments. We are, as I mentioned, implementing these commitments. It requires some legislative process in the EU, and we are currently doing that, and we expect the US to respect the commitment taken as well.
Do you ever see a world, just as a final point, Ambassador, where Canada's connection with the European Union is more formal than the partnerships and the strategic relations? And I mean, these are formal agreements, don't get me wrong there. But, you know, people float the idea of European Union membership. I don't know if that can work as a North American, state. How do you view the potential future there?
Well, maybe a few words about the accession to the EU. You mentioned the membership of the EU. I'm a lawyer and I'm attached to the treaty, and we have a provision in the European Treaty mentioning that to become a member of the EU, you may apply if you are both a European country and respecting and promoting EU values. I have no doubt about the second condition. But the first one, to be... there is the limit of geography, but that doesn't mean that we should not look for another form of cooperation. maybe not the membership, but something else, something stronger than what we have today. We have to be creative, we have to be innovative, and we are creative in Europe. We have ideas.
Okay, well, we're all going to need those ideas with the way things keep getting disrupted. Ambassador, it was lovely to meet you. Thank you so much for coming in today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.